Okay, so we've just watched season 1, episode 10. Oops.
Oops.
Oops. Oops. Oops. I don't know how I feel about this episode.
Yeah, I didn't like this. It made me think of like, I don't know, just like a flat episode, just like nothing. Like it tried to be something, but I don't think it could be. It did. I don't know. It just didn't do it for me.
Sort of a bulldog-centric episode.
I think that's what it is. I don't like Bulldog. I don't like him.
Fair, that's fair.
I think he's a product of his time.
He is a product of his time, and he's kind of a good like bit character. I don't know. I think perhaps the way you feel about Bulldog parallels how I feel about BB, because I think like really funny in small doses, but like you just want to shake them.
Yeah, he makes me want to take like a Valium afterwards and just like go relax, because he's just high intensity, shouting, like just over the top.
Yeah, he's very intense. And this episode really showcases that intensity, I think.
Yes.
So I think this time it's the perfect amplification of his usual shtick, right? So like, normally you see him for about a couple seconds of like, yelling about something and then figuring out it's not that bad. This is that times 10. I mean, yelling about it and then, turns out, hey, actually it was going to be good news. I mean, yeah. So,
But for Frasier.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I find Frasier's very reluctant to fix the mistake he made.
That's a bit surprising for him, because he tends to be so on the nose about being ethical or making the most ethical decision. But I think that it kind of fits him, because when Frasier needs to correct when it comes to women, I think he's okay. But when it comes to other men, he's very hesitant. I don't know if it's because of his like childhood trauma of being bullied or something, but he's kind of very reluctant to step to a guy and kind of maybe be a little bit on the tougher side, or man up. That's the expression, man up.
I think too, if you think about it, both in how he is handling Bulldog himself, but also the station director. I mean, you kind of have that hesitance twice.
Very strong men too. Like they're very, toxic men to some degree, I would say.
Presence. Yeah.
Very much so.
So let's get into it.
Okay, so we're at Cafe Nervoso where Niles is recounting a story to Frasier. I love this story where he's talking about the women's league, practicing cats.
So I just had to get out of the house. Maris's junior league is rehearsing their spring musicale. This year they're doing Cats. For the past week and a half, I've been watching 24 underweight, tightly pulled women in leotards crawling around the music room meowing. I'm telling you, Frasier, my allergies are acting up.
Oh, Niles, I think you're exaggerating.
No, really. You have no idea how vivid the experience is. As God is my judge, I swear, Mrs. Presley Bismuth was scent marking the divan.
God, you'd think women of that age would choose more suitable material. You remember the last show they did, The Sound of Music? My God, half the Von Trapp children were having hot flashes.
The cats part isn't even the funniest part. I mean, like the Sound of Music reference, I think, just gets me.
I remember Cats being a huge deal in the 90s. Like
it was everywhere.
It was everywhere. I'm not into musicals, but I know someone who is, and I think Cats is like not up there, like not like popular. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe with the younger kids, they don't like it as much, but. In the 90s, I remember being everywhere.
Rip on us in the 90s, but I'm not really sure what that could be attributed to, honestly.
Yeah. I just remember those commercials. They were always like, sing-songy, and there was cats, and I'm like, why are there cats? What's going on? I'm allergic to cats anyway, so.
It's like Niles.
Yes. I'm Niles.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there might be some like generational thing going on where like in the 90s, if you were like actually an adult and were into musical theater, like Cats was the show. But I think like all of us were kids, so like I don't think we got it.
Nah.
No, I don't get it. Is it still running? It was
Well,
it
they
ran
made
for
a
a long
really
time.
weird movie of it. It's probably still
Yeah.
running somewhere, but yeah, again, it evades me, but someone's into cats.
Well, someone has to be.
I mean, otherwise they wouldn't keep producing it. So, yeah. I mean, then who are we to talk? We regularly meet to dissect episodes of Frasier, which is certainly not everyone in the world's cup of tea. So,
True.
I guess the cats people can have their thing.
Guilty.
Although I'll take all of the Frasier episodes over a single sitting of Cats.
I agree. I don't know if Cats would be my cup of tea. I didn't see the movie. I do remember it being a bit of a horror show.
Yeah, not my style. But, to each their own. I mean, Maris and her junior league friends certainly found something in it.
Mm-hmm. So Roz enters with a couple of their co-workers from the station. Niles leaves and Roz and the crew join Frasier at his table. They start talking about office gossip. The gossip at hand is about the possibility that someone was getting fired. Frasier's disgusted, opposed to gossiping, but Roz argues that it's the lifeblood of the corporate world and the only way to know what's going on.
It's true, though.
Yeah, that's real.
I love awesome gossip. I love office gossip. I love it.
Yeah, it's real. I mean, that's how you survive that kind of job.
Exactly.
You know what, though? I will say this. I once was somewhere where I didn't find out. I was actually out of the loop when there was two people hooking up, and I didn't even know about it till years later. And then someone told me, they're like, "Oh, everybody knew." I was like, "Well, I didn't know."
I know.
I was out of the loop. So I think you have to, if you're in the office gossip loop, are you first tier, second tier, third tier? Frasier's definitely third tier. He'll know eventually.
Yeah.
Roz is in the core of it. She's generating the gossip.
Oh yeah, stick to her. It, of course, Roz is. She's so that's just so her personality. She's very candid with everybody, but also kind of nosy. All of that just seems yeah, of course she's at the middle of it.
Yeah. And as I age, I'm drifting from a 1 to a 2 to a 3.
Where's Roz? What is she on that scale?
She's always going to be right in the center of the drama.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a very real thing.
Yeah, I'm terrible because I need someone to tell me what's going on for me to actually pick it up.
I have a feeling you would be the one that would be repeating it as they're telling it, and you're supposed to be quiet.
Yeah.
Sure.
Bulldog enters and heads to the counter for a drink. They speculate whether Bulldog's the person getting sacked. Frasier disagrees, saying Bulldog's the highest rated personality, but the others argue that he currently has beef with management and his expense account was put on hold. As if to drive the point home further, Bulldog gives his Sonics tickets to Chopper Dave because Ned Miller, the station manager, wants to see him after work.
Hey, Dave, do you want my tickets to the Sonics game tonight?
Well, thanks. Why aren't you going?
Station manager wants to see me after work.
Oh, people, you're jumping to conclusions. Show a little respect. Bulldog has devoted 15 years of his life to radio. My own personal feelings aside, the man deserves better than to become the object of some scurrilous rumor that, as yet, hasn't a shred of truth to it.
Yeah, I suppose you're right.
Yes, well, just in case, I've got dibs on his parking space.
To me, because if he's giving away these tickets, and he doesn't know the rumors yet, right?
No.
What is he going into that conversation thinking? And also, how long does he think that conversation is going to be if he's going to miss a game?
Yeah.
Valid.
So,
Good question.
mysteries on Bulldog's front. We certainly know that he didn't expect what later happened, but I don't know. It's an interesting one to me because what were his thoughts going in? We kind of don't ever see that.
His show runs late though. He's on after Frasier, and Frasier's show ends at 5.
That's true. That's true. So if he wanted to get to a game that started around 7, yeah, that would be a tight squeeze.
Yeah.
Well, Frasier accuses them all of jumping to conclusions before calling dibs on Bulldog's parking space. I love this as a recurring joke.
Oh yeah, the priest is the one that's trying to call dibs on that. Except he doesn't.
Yeah.
Such a gentle way.
But you know what, though? In the real world, if you're in an office setting and someone leaves, you immediately go to their office to scavenge and say I wanted that hole puncher. I mean, it's
oh yeah, it's real. The vultures.
Yeah, we're all vultures.
I got made redundant at a workplace once, and we all went in to gather our stuff, but we also took a bunch of other stuff with us when we left.
Compensation
The
package.
partying gift.
Yeah, a lot of stationery.
But I'm not even gonna lie. At the last place I was at, people were leaving like constantly, and as soon as the person was, we were like, "Bye," and then we just go straight into their office for like, "I want that chair. That's the good chair. That's the good screen."
Mm-hmm.
You know.
You want the good stuff.
Definitely.
Later that day, Fraser's doing his radio show. Don calls in from a car phone. He says how he's having trouble losing weight no matter how much he diets when someone from a drive-thru asks for his order.
Joke. And I loved it even more when I looked at the end credits for this episode. Do you guys know who voices Don?
No.
No.
It's Jay Leno. Like, that's, I don't know why, but there's just something about that like, it's just such a weird, subtle guest voice for a caller. Like, I didn't catch it. I didn't catch it when I was watching the episode, but then I look at the end credits and I'm like, that's Jay Leno? And it's funny. That on its own is funny.
Yeah. I can see him being friends with Kelsey Grammer and company back then.
Frasier goes to the news and steps out into the hallway. He sees Father Mike, who's concerned about a rumour going around about how he might be getting fired. To reassure Mike, Frasier shares the earlier gossip about Bulldog being the one getting fired. Relieved, Father Mike leaves, but not before inquiring about Bulldog's face.
Well, listen, Father. I don't like to engage in gossip, but you have nothing to worry about.
Yes? Why?
Well, someone is being let go.
Oh?
But it's not you. It's Bulldog.
Bulldog? Oh, what a shame.
Yes.
Has anybody spoken for his parking space?
Well, I have.
He must have a good parking space.
I was just thinking it must have been really good. It probably was like maybe, you know how some places they have like where it's a roof and there's no roof. Like I can't imagine Bulldog. Yeah, like he probably didn't get like the best space, but it probably was something good.
In some way. Well, it's also, think about it, it's Seattle, right? Seattle, It rains all the time.
Right.
So he either has a covered space or one that's close enough to the door.
That's what I thought. I
That's
said,
a premium space.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I was gonna guess the other. I would say close to the door so you could run in, because it's one of those cities where you don't want to have an umbrella because it's gonna blow out. So like you should get close to the door.
I only know snow. You guys.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Snowy.
I've been to Seattle my fair share of times. It does always rain, and honestly, I don't see a lot of umbrellas, probably because of the wind.
What do you think Father Mike's show's like?
Wholesome.
Answering questions. Like I thought he probably like answers questions people call in and like counsels them.
Religiously toned Frasier.
Mm.
Like Frasier is like, the psychiatry voice, right? And then Father Mike is the the spiritual voice. That's how I'm picturing it. And they kind of fill two different niches for the greater Seattle audience. And I don't know. I don't really know like demographically like what the Pacific Northwest was like in the 90s, like in terms of their like, religious like distribution. But I mean, if Father Mike had a show, there's got to be an audience for it.
Definitely.
Have to be. I remember growing up, well, not so much growing up, but in the early 2000s, there was a show on a national radio station in Australia called Sunday Night Saffron, which had one of the co-hosts was a Catholic priest. It was a really good show. It was very much about, they describe it as being about religion, politics, and all things ethnic.
Wow. That's a combo.
It was very left-leaning.
Now I'm only used to religious like TV shows like Tammy Faye Baker, like the
Joel Osteen or like the mega churches.
Yeah. So, but every now and then, when you watch Frasier, you see those references and you're like, yeah, people still use radio as entertainment as well. So, I mean, there's a whole generation that was raised in front of a radio. So, yeah.
Yeah, Father Bob was very sort of left-leaning, despite being a Catholic priest. He was very, what's the word?
Progressive?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he was seen as a bit of a rogue priest because he sold church property to help pay for his charity, which helped feed and house homeless people.
Okay.
That's actually like kind of living the values, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Bit of a national treasure in my mind.
Oh, that's so great.
Father Mike always just puts me in mind of Father Bob.
There you go. Maybe he was
I
like
don't
that,
think
but
it's the same
in
way.
Seattle. Well, I don't know. You're right. He was after Bulldog's parking space, so let's not give him too much credit.
Okay, so Frasier shuts the door, and it turns out Bulldog is behind it, listening to the conversation. Upset that he's
the
a
way
goner.
he's standing there.
I know. He's just standing behind the door. He was listening in. He wanted the gossip.
Oh,
and he's
yeah.
short, so you kind of like have to kind of look at, he's like boom right there,
Uh-huh.
How tall is Bulldog? He has to be like what? I'm 5'2". I feel like we would be, because he's shorter than Roz, right? He's a short guy.
Looking it up. Dan Butler. No, that's the wrong Dan Butler.
Couple thing.
He's 1.7 meters. I don't know how much that is in feet.
For our American listeners.
He's like a little under 5'6".
Oh,
Yeah.
really? He seems so much shorter.
I mean, how tall is Kelsey? I guess that's a question.
Yeah, true. Yeah, he's a tall guy.
So I think that's kind of where some of it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
It's all relative stuff. It's like how like Tom Cruise is pretty short, but he's always cast next to people who are also relatively short, so you don't notice that he is.
You know what it is about Bulldog is that I find him to be so like whiny that I give him a very generous dose of like Napoleon complex. So like I just look at him as a tiny man. So there you go, man. Ladies think that you're like a tiny man. You might be yelling, but to me, I just think you're just a tiny man, just like. So
it's like having a sports car.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kelsey Grammer's 6'1".
You know what? That surprises me too. I don't know. I knew he was like not short, but like I would have pegged him at like 5'10". I didn't think he crossed the 6 foot mark.
But maybe that is something like maybe like our body language can kind of communicate in a way that our words can't. And you know what? I just watched a documentary on like body language. So maybe there, maybe the writers kind of also took that into account as like, how the character kind of moves. Because with Bulldog, he has so much movement. He is so loud. Everything about him is loud to me.
Dan Butler plays him really well.
Yeah.
Definitely.
He really embraces
and
it.
Baby. Like there's just something like they really do embody the character. And you're just like, it comes off in a good way, a good comedic way.
Yeah. It really seems authentic to his the nature of his show as like a sportscaster, right? Because he's not an athlete, but he's got a big loud opinion about the athletes, and I think there's something that tracks there.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. Such a great cast for a great casting call. They cast the right person for that.
Yeah.
They did. And I watched the episode of the reboot which had the had Bulldog in it recently, and the actor hasn't missed a beat.
That's good.
Oh yes, that makes me so happy to hear.
Yeah, he's still very much Bulldog.
Okay, well, we'll put him up there. We'll give him his kudos or kudos.
That's great.
Yes, so upset that he's a goner, he declares that no one fires Bulldog and he'll quit first. He storms off to the station manager's office, but not before grabbing Roz for a passionate, for him, kiss.
So gross.
It's gross, but it's a moment. It's just like I'm
it's a moment. I mean, it fits.
Going to war.
Yeah, it is. It's like the going to war. Like, let me get my last.
Yes.
Thing in. Yeah.
You can tell that in that moment, like he had a surge of testosterone, and it just like boiled to the top, and he just had to do something manly and like get gladiator, like Roman.
He goes, ruins his situation.
Upset, Roz asks what the hell that was about, and Frasier explains that he may have accidentally shared gossip in front of Bulldog. Roz said
Like-
that the earlier rumor wasn't true, and the meeting with the station manager was to discuss taking his show national.
That would have been convenient to know, a few minutes before.
Right?
Yeah, it would have been nice.
And did you catch that what happened to Bulldog is exactly what BB said in the other episode? She could take Frasier national. You know what I mean?
Wait.
So it kind of
BB represent Bulldog as well.
Yes.
Oh,
There
she
you go.
did. Oh, see? Oh, I love the continuity. That's so great. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I like that.
So, you know what? I might hate BB, but she is effective.
She is.
She is.
And so you're right. Like, that's funny. I wonder if subconsciously Frasier wanted. Maybe that's why he was reluctant to fix the situation. Maybe he was a little bit jealous of Bulldog.
A lot of layers here. I think there's a lot of intent with some of these continuity bits that run through the episodes. I don't think any of this is accidental.
No.
I'm starting to think that as well, because if you think about it, Frasier, now this is me just kind of going off on another level here, but if you think about it, Bulldog is a type of person Frasier would despise. And to see him get what he's coveting and wants, I think Frasier would have been envious of that and said, how can he have it and not me? And maybe, he really was kind of happy Bulldog kind of got the boot for a minute there.
I mean, I think you're right with that observation. Like, Bulldog is very, very much Frasier's opposite. Like, Frasier prides himself on being very intellectual and cultured and measured, and Bulldog is just very out there, a little lowbrow, like man of the people. So, yeah, I could see that.
And he's also but he's equally knowledgeable about
sports.
The sports. I mean, I'm not a sports person either, so I'm kind of like Frasier. Like, I'm like the sports, like whatever the point scores are, he always seems to know them and all of that stuff. So he can go toe to toe with Frasier to some degree, because Frasier knows his field, but Bulldog knows his.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Like, that's kind of like a subtle thing. Like, if you think about it and let it marinate, it's there.
But to Bulldog, maybe not at this juncture, but sort of in a way, generally, his positioning is that he's not someone that Frasier directly treats like a rival. He's anything, he's in the social group, just in a certain spot, right? And so it's not even like he hates him or resents him or anything like that. He's just different. And I think there's something to be said for even look at the positioning here. Frasier, when he thinks Bulldog is gonna get sacked, he's like dibs on the parking space. He doesn't take any of it personally. He's just like, oh yeah, I'll take his spot. And so I think that is really interesting to kind of see how they relate to each other. And there's no ill will. It's just like, well, I got kind of his spot.
Well, Frasier calls Ned Miller's receptionist to try and catch Bulldog before he gets there, but he's already gone into the office. I love the angle they use here, where they've just got a cut to Bulldog and he's got full going off, but they've got a dog sound over the top of it.
Yeah, and the video,
the shy from the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's looking up as well.
Yeah.
To emphasize on his height.
Into the peephole or the camera or whatever it is, and the distortion is just hilarious, along with the dog barking sound. It's just everything.
And it further feeds into it, here's a little man just having it kind of
like a little bulldog,
Yeah,
exactly. Making that sound again, by the way.
So Bulldog returns, having successfully quit. He's on an adrenaline high and he leaves. Frasier tries to blame Roz for this.
Oh my God, this is unbelievable. A man has quit his job just because of a rumor that you spread.
Me? The whole point of gossip is to talk behind the person's back, not in front of them. I didn't realize you were unclear on this concept.
I'm a bad, bad man.
Roz isn't having it and pointed out that Frasier spread the rumor in front of Bulldog, so he's to blame. She tells him that he has to straighten it out with the station manager. Frasier's reluctant, considering that he feels that Ned Miller is unstable. Turns out he is, but
But it is just funny to have
bit of a coward's way out.
Yeah.
Yeah. He could have resolved it right then and just gone straight in and gone, actually, there's a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
But No, he's like, no, I'm not doing it.
Not it.
At Fraser's apartment, Martin opens the door to Niles, who's holding a dead-looking houseplant. Popped in the hope that Daphne could bring it back to life.
Do you think he killed it? He killed it, right?
No, I think it may. I feel like Maris has a gardener to look after her plants, so he's found a dead plant somewhere.
Where? Oh, he probably just picked it up off somebody's porch or something.
You know what? I can put it past him. It is an obvious, like, just anything to get in the door.
I really think so. He probably was sitting in his office listening to a patient go on and on and on about being neurotic about something. And then he's probably thinking of all the different reasons and ways he can go to Fraser's house.
Yeah. I'll take a dead plant.
Yeah.
I do love how he's there and he's like wanting to see Daphne, and Martin's like, she's not there, and he's like, okay, and he goes to leave.
Love that. I love that. That's so adorable.
That entire exchange, it is really hilarious. I do wonder sometimes when you get these little vignettes of like Martin and either of his sons by themselves, especially Niles though, it's always so stiff, and you're like, how was that growing up, right? Because it's like every single part of that exchange is so awkward. Like when he offers him a pickle, or he like just asks a question. It's just like there's nothing about that feels warm or unforced. But it's like, you lived in the same household. Like how do you not have more?
But
it does get better as the years go.
But you know, that moment is authentic. I think that like it was very perceptive that they both can be okay with neither of them wanting to be around each other and not letting that bother them. And I think about like how close I am with my kids. And if I were to want to spend time with them and they said no, like I would be upset about it because we are bonded closely. But if you have a family relationship where you're not, you wouldn't be annoyed that they don't want to be around you. And I find that so odd. I'm like, wow, I would be so like, we need to talk about this. Why don't you want me around? Like, did I do something wrong? And they're just like, bye, whatever. You know, it's so.
This interaction as well. When you find out, because in a later episode it's revealed that Niles used to have an hour a week with Martin, like that he'd come and visit Martin for an hour each week. So they've spent a lot of time alone together. And this is still their relationship. Yeah.
Wow, thank you for that fact. I didn't even know that. Where was that? Was that something later in the episode?
It's the end of season 3.
The
last episode in season 3. There's a bit in there where because Fraser's just moved back to Seattle in that episode, and Niles says, well, come with me and you can visit Dad. I see him. I'm going for my hourly visit.
Oh, there it is.
Weekly visit.
Oh, that's right.
So he visits him weekly. Yeah.
So
it just makes...
That would hurt my feelings if my kids ever did that to me.
Also think about it this way. Look at the way that Niles speaks about Maris.
Yeah.
I feel like something very similar is going on with his dad.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I didn't even see that. Yeah.
And maybe that's just an insight that we all just had into like Niles. Like not so much the dynamics between anybody, it's just him.
And occasionally we do see the insights of Niles, and sometimes when we see his insights on something, you're like, oh wow, I didn't even, because Niles, like he doesn't always give off his emotions like Fraser. Like Fraser, what he thinks and how he feels, they're very aligned. Whereas I think with Niles, he is able to kind of be flat and still be feeling all these emotions and feeling thoughts, and that's amazing to me. Because
if you think about their work, right? Because they work in the same field. I don't want to say they have the same job, right? But they work in the same field, and there are two very strongly opposing schools of thought within that sort of community of should you be a blank slate to your patients, or should you be a full human who has feelings as well? And I think they represent both sides of that positioning. Obviously, Fraser feels his feelings, Niles, withholds them.
What are the two schools of thoughts?
So, I mean, like, obviously there's tons of schools of thought, like, in general within the, psychotherapy, but some people believe that a good therapist is one who's a total blank slate, so that the patient or the client can feel their feelings to a neutral sounding board, while others feel the direct opposite, which is that perceiving your therapist as a human is actually more helpful. So, yeah, so it is really interesting. I encounter this in school because some of my professors have opposing views on this. I have some that are like, you need to tone down your own feelings in this, and others are just like,
Wow.
you need to be more rounded. And so it is just different theoretical schools of thought for how to practice.
Wow, that is amazing. Thank
Yeah.
you for that.
Yeah, but it explains a lot. Like, if finding a therapist you resonate with is difficult for a lot of people, and it's because some people are seeking someone who's just totally blank, and some people want someone who feels like a human, and so neither is wrong. It's just about fit.
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess Frasier's way of doing things, being like a human, being
For
like a
radio,
human,
why
but
would he
being
want to just be
human,
like blank? That makes for terrible radio.
exactly.
True.
Like,
And
being
terrible TV.
Yeah.
All media. You need to have some personality. You can't be. And
Can't
maybe
be
that's why we
perfect.
love consuming media, because you have to have something has to be there.
Yeah.
Or else
Oh,
you would.
by the way, we
Yeah.
totally forgot. There was an amazing Niles joke earlier in the episode that relates to how he works.
Yes, well, this has been kind of fun. But I really have to go. I'm conducting a seminar in multiple personality disorders, and it takes me forever to fill out the name tags.
He's got his seminar for multiple personalities.
Yes, that's right.
Fill out the name tags.
Yes.
I can't believe we didn't spend like 5 minutes on that. That is such. I mean, like, first off, like, obviously it's a very Hollywoodized version of the profession joke, but come on, that's amazing.
It's a very good joke. It's I think it's also one of the first times that he has he talks about his group therapy.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those recurring jokes.
Niles a little bit. Is it weird to anyone else that he conducts group therapy sessions?
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like his personality is just so, not that.
Because in group sessions like that, in my opinion, there's so many variables, right? Like, and so many noises and interruptions and movement. And I just feel like he wouldn't handle
that a good group therapy facilitator has to be able to engage and draw participation from everyone. Why is Niles doing this? Like, I feel like he's like the wallpaper in a session. Like, that should just not be and it's not him. So I find that really funny, and we see that, in future episodes, like the one where, he and Frasier decide to have that shared office and all of that. Like, it comes out again, and I'm just like, Niles, why are you facilitating group therapy? This is not you.
Well, you know what? Somebody's got to pay those bills.
True. Maris is expensive to maintain.
Yeah, so Niles and Martin make stilted small talk, and Martin says that Niles doesn't have to stay if he's just there to see Daphne. Niles is outraged and goes to leave when Daphne arrives home. She asks if Niles is staying for dinner, to which he replies he loves to.
Classic.
Do you think Niles? I'm sorry, I'm just so on Niles right now because I cannot stand Bulldog. Last thing, and then I'll let you go. But do you think that Niles eats 2 meals a day on the days that he eats over at Frasier's? Because I feel like Maris is waiting for him on those
I don't
nights.
think Maris waits for him.
No?
Like, I don't think she cares. I do think, I think there is some intent on Niles' part, but I do not believe, especially at this stage in the series, I don't think Maris notices or cares.
Really?
She strikes me as extremely checked out and in her own little world.
Oh, see, I thought that Niles has to eat there, and then Maris is waiting, and they like sitting at like one of those long like fairy tale Disney tables with
a table with this thing up and ends up. I agree with you on that front, but I also think Maris eats like 3 peas.
Yeah,
like she's performative eating, so like, why would she care or notice if Niles is eating as well?
Thank you. Good perspective.
Yeah. I mean, like, what do we know about Maris? Like, she weighs like 70 pounds. Like, that woman does not eat.
True.
Frasier arrives home and Martin asks him what happened to Bulldog. Frasier explains that Bulldog quit, and Daphne uses her psychic ability to pick up on the fact that Frasier is shrouded in an aura of guilt.
You don't have to be a psychic to know that.
No. Frasier admits he may have accidentally spread a rumor that Bulldog overheard, which caused him to quit. Martin says that Frasier has to go to the station and get Bulldog's job back. Frasier refuses, intimidated by Ned Miller. He reasons this could be the best thing to happen to Bulldog. Eddie starts pouring at the door, and Frasier opens it to find a despondent Bulldog standing outside. Apparently his girlfriend kicked him out after he quit, as she was only dating him because he was on the radio. His life is falling apart.
Layers there. There are absolutely layers there. Because, one, I do think it's perfect comedic timing that Bulldog is right there and is, putting on his sob story, but also, like, if you think of the setup for this whole episode where, like, Bulldog was poised to go national, but then his outburst ended up getting him sacked, like, that kind of whole thing. Like, you pair that with like, a hanger-on girlfriend, like, there's so much to unpack.
Yeah. I mean, and that would translate to today as if, like, he was an influencer and, like, he was hot one day and the next day he's not, right? Like, we see it now.
Bulldog, like, untagging him in the photos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do love the dismissive joke where Frasier's trying to give him a 20 for the Y. I mean, like,
I know.
Come on.
Tries to give him a 20 for the Y and then is guilted into letting him stay the night.
Yeah, on his suede couch, which let's not forget, it is a version of the couch from the Chanel Atelier. Yep. But why not crash on it, right?
Exactly.
Although I feel like Eddie has just on his own done enough damage to that couch that, like, Bulldog cannot ruin it further.
No.
Exactly. Well, Bulldog's grateful for the couch for the night and heads down the hallway to the shower. Daphne, Martin, and Eddie stare at Frasier, who quickly caves and goes to speak to Ned Miller.
I do find it funny that Frasier, in this context, has to be guilted into doing what's right. Because, like, honestly, like, the gossip itself wasn't that big an offense, but I think the fact that it took Frasier, like, all of this encouragement to go fix what he'd done,
I know.
what's going on here?
He says he's scared of Ned.
Fair. But I think it's an ego thing, too.
What, though? Like, what do you think he would have done? I guess maybe he would have probably thrown a punch at Frasier. Maybe he would have thrown a chair.
I mean, you saw the hole in the wall from...
that is right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, because obviously we know that Bulldog only nicked the paint, so, yeah. I mean,
that with Bulldog's
Ned
head.
has a temper, but I don't know. I feel like there's more ego involved than fear here.
Yes, exactly. I feel like it's a lot of chest pounding.
Yeah.
Because Frasier's a large guy. He'd hold his own in a fight.
Yeah.
If it came down to it.
Well,
don't we remember from a few episodes ago?
That's true.
He almost got into a fight, so exactly. He could have handled his own.
He could always flee the office.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Frasier arrives at Ned Miller's office, where he's hanging a frame to hide a large hole in the wall. Turns out Bulldog and Miller got physical in their altercation. Ned Miller offers Frasier a drink, to which he declines. Frasier admits a lot of what Bulldog said and did that afternoon was his fault, as he was spreading a rumor he'd heard about someone getting sacked. Ned Miller agrees to take Bulldog back. Frasier's relieved. Before he leaves, Miller reveals the rumor's true. Someone is getting sacked. Frasier runs through a few names when it suddenly becomes apparent it's Frasier. Ned gives a speech about being in a radio game, how people get fired but they always land back on their feet. Such a condescending little speech.
I think so, too.
Phone rings and Ned Miller answers it as Frasier gets himself a drink. The phone call goes poorly and Miller joins Frasier in the drink. Turns out the station decided to fire Miller instead of an on-air talent. His job's safe. Frasier repeats back the same speech Ned Miller gave him not 2 minutes earlier.
Well, Ned. I haven't been in the radio game that long, but I've been around long enough to know that people get fired. And, when they do, they always seem to land on their feet. Now, I've known quite a few people in counseldom who have suffered similar setbacks, but in time you will embrace this. Learn to think of it as, a new chapter. In theatrical circles, they always say, every exit is but an entrance to somewhere else.
God, I wish I'd fired you when I had the chance.
This is every corporate worker's fantasy that
Oh,
like
yes.
the overpaid exec gets fired instead of the person who actually is doing the work. Like that is just, you know, I especially if you've ever been laid off or something, like you're just like, what about this middle manager that like is doing nothing? So I mean, truly, I mean that's got to be satisfying.
Very, very lucky for Frasier. Ned Miller's unimpressed with what Frasier says and wishes he fired him when he had the chance.
It's sick, but yeah.
So that's the episode.
Yes, it is.
You know, I think it's interesting because like before we deconstructed it, I was like, yeah, this was kind of like a medium episode, but I like that we got a couple things out of it. One, we got exactly the right dose of bulldog, like not too much, but you know, enough to really kind of get some personality out there. But we got those Niles insights that I really like, and then we also got to see, you know, Frasier begrudgingly go on his little journey of, you know, overcoming his ego to have that conversation to undo his damage. I don't know, it really like pretty solid after we deconstructed it, and which is maybe not how I felt while I was watching it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing I do love about the Frasier episodes is that there's something there. There's always an elephant in the room, but there's also these subtleties that kind of surround it that are just as impactful. And it might not. It adds to the layers, I think.
Yeah,
and I like that. That there's layers being, you know, it's kind of being caked in and baked in, and maybe as things go on, you see it more clearly. I like that.
Which, like, for a sitcom, especially a sitcom in the 90s, like,
Exactly.
wasn't always there. So I really do appreciate it.
And TV, I don't know if TV is, I don't think there's many shows. I guess maybe some of those drama, those, you know, drama shows.
Premium dramas, yeah.
Yeah, like, yeah, they kind of give you that space, but not in a sitcom now. Like, it's just, you know, get the laughs in.
Yeah. Well, if you compare it to other 90s sitcoms, especially the ones that had like a really high impact on viewers, I mean, so I'm thinking of like Friends and Seinfeld as two that really could be like those 90s staples. I don't know that we had nuance like this. I mean, like, sure, there was continuity, but I don't think that's the same. I think the layering on Frasier is unique.
Yes, it's very nuanced. It is nuanced. Yes, that's the perfect way to describe it.
It's like a fine Loire Valley wine, right?
Yes.
But not that one from the art dealer, which was swell.
Because what I like about Frasier is a lot of the jokes aren't just a one-off, throw it out just for a laugh joke. They always come back to, they come back to it a lot. Like, we didn't mention it earlier, but Niles recounting the story at the beginning of the episode where he's talking about Maris being in a cast of cats. And then later on, he has to leave because Maris has gotten kicked out of the cast of cats because she couldn't remember the words to memory. Just adding to the joke.
Yeah. But even the jokes that span episodes or even seasons, like, it's really clear. Like, this is one of those shows that really makes it evident that the writer's room is thoughtful, right? It's not just episode, get your laughs, go. You know, it's what does the whole, you know, cumulative effect present us with?
I really felt that they diagrammed the shows
If they did not have extensive whiteboards, I would be surprised.
Not at all.
And Ned Miller was the first time we've seen the station manager, and that for a little while was a bit of a recurring, like a bit of a guest role. Like they'd have a different different person in that role for each time we saw them. So
we got some more to come soon.
Yeah,
with, you know, different angles.
Yes, they're all different.
So what's next? I forget that. So now we're at 11.
Episode 11 is Death Becomes Him.
Okay. All right. I'm going to enjoy the rewatch on that one.
I think I will too. This is a classic episode of Frasier getting obsessed over something.
Which is the best, is when you see him like that. when he is obsessed. I love it.
Heal thyself.
Well, thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Always a joy.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
But I don't know what to do with those tossed salads and scrambled eggs. They're calling again. Good night, Seattle. We love you.